Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And in this case, we're talking about racial equity, education, and so much more. That's why we're honored to have with us Revida Rahman, co-founder of One WillCo. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful today. You had me so excited with that intro.
Hey, well, you're doing a tremendous amount to power the good, and so it is exciting. And so this all starts with your backstory and then also your co-founder. And so give us the origin story. Give us some of the background for launching One WillCo.
Absolutely. So back in, our efforts started probably in 2018 or 2019. We had about 4 or 5 families who had attended our elementary school and went on a field trip to the plantation and did not hear the truthful stories that we would expect to represent our community. And so we were brave enough to kind of meet up with some other families in that school and kind of have a meeting with our principal, which ended up resulting in the district sending a school curriculum specialist to come and talk to us. So we knew that this was an issue that we were concerned about. We knew that in Williamson County, we have the best schools in the state. We are very prideful and proud of that. But we also know that there are some areas that our district could improve on to make things better for families and students of color. And so that's kind of where we started. The racial reckoning of 2020 occurred, and Jennifer Cortez had already been reaching out to us to try to see how she can support students and families of color as we showed up at school board meetings. And so she's a writer and wanted to put a story behind some of these kids' experiences that they had had. And so she came to me and said, I've got a connection with some white families. You've got a connection with some Black families. Why don't we pull this together? And that's how One WillCo started October 2020. So we have been actively involved and engaged in the community, in the school, and trying to support families of color. One of the things, we have quite a few allies and friends that have been supportive of our work and encourage students to report things when they happen. So it's been a good experience, kind of full circle almost. So it's been very interesting.
Well, when you look at education, advocacy, and also too bringing the community together, and even with the youth, providing events and opportunities for them so that no one is isolated, no one is alone. You're better understanding there's empathy and respect, cultural integrity and respect. And I think there's a lot of nuances to what you're doing that, in the end, honestly, make the community stronger and better. And I think that's kind of the key of this. So start kind of diving in, because when you look at that through line with education, events, advocacy, all of that, start kind of walking through the process of what you all do.
Absolutely. So we are a organization. We support students and families of color who are experiencing issues. We know that in Williamson County, many of our students are experiencing racial bullying. We know that bullying is a problem on a national level, regardless, period. It's hard being in school. But some of these instances, our district wasn't tracking them the way to make progress. And so we have shared information and said, hey, we really need to specify this, because to me, I don't think you can solve a problem when you don't have all the details or know how to get to it. So if we know that our racial bullying numbers are here, what do we do to bring that number down? And so I think that's been a really key thing that we've been able to share with the district, and looking forward to the continued work that we will try to do together. Because at the end of the day, Jeremy, one of the things that we've experienced in our community here in the Middle Tennessee area the last week, we've had 3 students who've committed suicide on our college campuses. And so things that students are experiencing are really difficult and tough without community efforts to hinder them on different things that they may be experiencing. And so that's one of the things that we really try to be a support system for students, for families, to show them how to report incidents that are taking place. My son had an incident a long time ago and we weren't aware of the process. But in that time, we realized that with the reporting, our district had reported to the civil rights data that only, I think it was under 15 incidents had occurred. And we knew that that was not correct or accurate. So we want to make sure that we got accurate reporting, that we can show families what the steps are to take to resolve an issue if they encounter one. And oftentimes families feel like sometimes things that they're doing are being swept under the rug. The central office isn't aware about it. And so it's just a way to have everybody to feel their voices being heard, they're being respected, they're being listened to and valued. And that's the main thing that we try to encourage.
Talk about access to opportunities and honors program, gifted program. I think that's another piece of this is, like you said, looking at what the numbers and, the data shows, but also too, providing the access points and opening up the floodgates for more opportunities. So talk about kind of the opportunity side of this.
Oh my God, that's such a great question, Jeremy. And I think opportunity-wise, Dr. Maya Bug went and spoke with us to Superintendent Looney back at that first meeting. And she's an educator, comes from the school system, so was aware of a lot of access that programs like AP and gifted programs are not often recognized to give that opportunity to a student of color. Generally, if there is a system to be able to test all these students, just one random test that students can go through, you have an opportunity to cast a bigger net to catch these students that you may have not picked up on. An example that I can give is we have a family that had been reached out to by their guidance counselor. And the guidance counselor basically told this parent, I was waiting on you to reach out to me to get your daughter tested because she needs to be, she's showing those marks. But what we want is for the student and the staff to empower themselves and say, okay, I recognize this need with this student. Let me tap her on the shoulder and pull her in and bring her into this opportunity. So I think that's something that can kind of help to cast a larger net to pick up students that you may not generally have picked up on, that may show things in their testing that you weren't aware of. So it just allows us to have a wider net to be able to embrace students. For me, I have a son that had dyslexia. And so for him in middle school, before he went to high school, his teacher reached out and was like, hey, I think he could really do, accept a challenge on this particular science subject. And so it was really just putting him, he's got dyslexia. He may have a altered self-esteem based on that. But how do we put these tools in place for students to be able to know that they can do this? And so he, from that first recommendation, we started him off with one gifted honors course when he started high school, and he's graduating as a senior this year. He's taking 6. So it just pushes them, and especially in a high performing district, to encourage them to push themselves a little harder. So that's one aspect that we really hope can be achieved out of this.
And I think to your point too, it's the invitation to participate and the opportunity, and then all of a sudden they can blossom. And so I think, just that right there is a great success story. Carry that into the events, because you have a chance to bring students together and prevent bullying, create, a more inclusive environment for people to understand each other, and especially for students to be upstanders, so that when something does happen, they can recognize it, report it, and stand up for each other. And I think that's something that society we need more of, is standing up for each other and being positive. But talk about that side where you have a chance to see it unfold with the students.
We've had several events that have taken place with our organization. Last spring, I believe we did a fun night with the kindergarten through 6th grade students. And it was just, we actually promoted that event at Kenrose during their international fair. Kenrose is one of our schools that is like an anomaly. They have over 40% population of other students and cultural. And so we were able to get that flyer to share that event with them. A lot of the students that showed up at this event was at Urban Air, and the students showed up at Urban Air, and they had a blast. They were like, can you do this again? And that's often a response that we hear from our skate night and some of the other opportunities that we have. Currently, what we have in the works, we're looking at doing something before the holidays at the movie theater for our elementary group. And then February 22nd, 2025, we will be partnering with Urban League of Middle Tennessee for a joint effort for public school students and private school students. And this will be the first opportunity that we will be able to do that. So we're really excited about that partnership. But we definitely want to include more events to allow a community to come together, a community of support, and just be uplifting and supportive of one another. I don't have to like what you do. I don't have to like any of those things, but for me to treat you humanely and with respect, I think that's the main thing that we can remember out of all of this.
For you, as obviously a community advocate and community champion, but also as a mother, what does the progress that you're seeing with One WillCo and, just like we're talking about the events, the galvanizing of the community, you get to see the light bulb go off. What does this mean to you to see progress being made? Obviously, we still have a far way to go, but progress is being made. So what puts a smile on your face with the work you're doing with One WillCo?
That's a great question. Progress being made, but really just acknowledging and recognizing who we are. I think our reputation in the community has been one that has been extremely positive. We want to handle that delicately because we understand many families put their trust in us. And so we definitely want to make sure that we're continuing to do that. What puts a smile on my face is seeing students caring for one another, concerned about support. I've had students that have reached out to me about things that have happened to their friends, and how the other part that we don't often see is what happens on the backside of that. This summer, we had a family that reported an incident, and looking at it from the family's perspective, she said this was someone that was slept in my home in my beds, and then we're starting to get these text messages with the N words. That created and prompted a conversation with that family, with the grandmother who was the custodian of those. And it's somewhat difficult, but it allows you to have some of those harder conversations to ensure that everybody is heard, everybody's respected. And so I think, to me, the progress of being in community with dialogue and how we can solve this problem together has been one of the most rewarding things that I would think that I could say out of this whole experience is the community, the growth, the ability and the willingness to learn something new and to try to make sure that our others are safe and protected.
How can the community get involved and support One WillCo?
Well, the first thing that we would ask them to do is go to our website, www.onewillco.org. And down at the bottom of that first page, you can sign up for our newsletter. We don't worry you. We're not going to hassle you. We're not going to be calling you. But what we are going to be doing is just sharing useful information that you as a community would need to know about what's going on with our school board, how we can support families, and different resources and things that may be helpful. So that's where you can go and find information, learn more about us, and sign up to stay in touch and learn about what we do.
When you look at the future, give us some of, and it could be the organizational goals, some of your personal goals for the organization, but what are some of your goals?
One of the main goals that I have is for each of our schools to have cultural affinity groups, but to also for them to have that interconnected tissue for that to be every group. So one of the things that we've just been able to do is that we've been working on since the beginning of our organization is trying to bridge the gap with Hispanic and Latina families. And one of the things that I've learned that comes through building relationship, building culture, increasing that. So we've just made this opportunity to try to learn more. And so I think that's, another step that we're trying to do. So we just want to make sure that we have resources that our community is welcoming to everybody. And how do we make them feel welcome by, having these groups that can connect with them. So that's my ultimate goal, is that we can connect all these groups, be able to come together and create a common purpose of what we want to have done in our schools.
And then give us some recommendation, because obviously reaching out to One WillCo, connecting in with you, but for students and especially for parents who say, I want to help create a more inclusive community. I want to be a part of the upstanders. I want to, do what's right and make sure everyone feels that like they belong and have the opportunities. What advice would you give them?
I think the main thing is dialogue and conversation. I often try to start a conversation with somebody saying, I may not agree with you on every point, but I'm going to be respectful. We can have dialogue and communication, and we can still work together to solve problems. So I don't think that requires a person's political aspiration or any of that. It just requires the human touch, the empathetic touch for our neighbors in our community to make sure that we're looking out for one another and that we're standing for them. I had an incident that happened on my job where a racial microaggression was said towards me, and my white coworker stood up and advocated and spoke up for me, and how that made me feel, to know that it wasn't just something that I witnessed, but she saw the problem in it too and stood up to support it. So anytime you have somebody in a situation like that and you got somebody that can advocate and rally for you, it's a great feeling. And so I think if we can continue to do that, we can continue to move the needle on how we want our community to be reflected.
Yeah. And that's also the power of relationships. When you have a relationship, that person is going to fight for you. They're going to be a champion. And I think that's what we need more.
Absolutely.
Relationships in community. So that's why I love and appreciate everything you're doing. So wrap up once again, you mentioned it before, mention it again, website, social media, where do we go to learn more and get involved with One WillCo?
Absolutely. We are working on getting our socials more student friendly, but right now they're more parent friendly. But you can find us at www.onewillco.org. One WillCo on Facebook, Instagram. I think we've also on X, also known as Twitter, as well. So you can reach out to us to any of those handles. If you or a family that you know is experiencing an issue, just please reach out to us on the website, and we will point them in the right direction to get the assistance that they need.
Well, Revida, thank you for all you and Jennifer and your amazing team at One WillCo do to power the good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jeremy. It was awesome. I appreciate the work you're doing.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.